So if you're thinking about starting a travel vlog, then I'm going to suggest to you why maybe you shouldn't be doing it. I'm going to share with you the two main reasons why I don't think you should start a travel vlog. I'm going to show you some examples, and then I'm going to tell you what I recommend and what I'm going to be doing that you do next. Because I get it. I get so many people asking me, how to start a travel vlog, wanting to start a travel vlog. I'm astounded how many people in the comments on different videos and even in our community are wanting to start travel vlogs. And I understand it because, it's that sign of freedom. You want to start an online business because of freedom. You want to start a channel so that you can work from anywhere. And the first thing you think of is that if I'm going to pick up a camera, what am I going to talk about? What interesting stuff do I have to talk about? But if I can travel, that gives me loads of interesting things to talk about. It can pay for me to travel, and it just gives me the lifestyle that I want. And it all just sounds absolutely fantastic. But is it? I really want to be able to bring some more travel aspects to my vlog, but it just doesn't quite work out the way you think. And I'm going to show you those examples in a minute. But the first reason is that you have to keep traveling. You have to travel non-stop. And I know that sounds like amazing, but at some point, you are not going to want to keep traveling. You're going to want to stop for at least a few months. And then you're going to have to keep coming up with content ideas in that area. So you're going to struggle. And life gets in the way. Some people might want children, you might want to try something different, but you want to continue with the vlog, but you don't want to lose your audience. And I see a lot of people take a break and their travel vlog goes down. So you're going to have to travel all the time. Otherwise, you're then going to have to try and change niche, which means you're going to lose views and everything else. And the second reason is you're not going to make very much money. And I think this is probably one of the main reasons. And I'm going to explain to you why. So I'm going to show you some examples, but there's many channels out there that just are not making very much money, and they only start to make a little bit of money or better money when they're getting up to around 100,000 subscribers and everything else. So unless you are the top performing travel vlogs, then you are not necessarily going to be making any money. And that for me is a problem. And also if you're having to vlog, I knew someone that had a bakery and they loved baking. And at the very peak of their baking success, they shut the business down. And that was because they weren't enjoying it. It killed the passion. The thing that they were really enjoying, it absolutely destroyed. So they were no longer enjoying it, so they stopped. So yeah, they killed the business right at the peak. And everybody was like, why? And it was because I'm just not enjoying it anymore. I really love baking, but I don't enjoy getting up at 5 in the morning and doing all the extra work that's required of it, and 6 days a week and all of this. So you also have to be aware that vlogging may kill your passion. So that's kind of a nice side note there. It may also kill your passion for traveling and take the fun out of something that you really love doing. But as I said, they don't make much money. And that's because you're so dependent on views. So unless you're getting a lot of views, and I see some amazing travel channels, they're just not getting enough views. And also, unless you're going to get the odd free hotel room and everything else, sort of influencer style, then sponsors are going to be a bit few and far between. Because how are you going to monetize with sponsors? What sponsors are going to want to sponsor videos that change every couple of weeks based on your location and where you're actually going? There's no sort of mission behind it. There's no goal behind the channel other than travel. So maybe the odd airline would, but again, they're not going to sponsor you until you're bigger. So you really have to look at this and decide who's going to sponsor. And this is why you see a lot of these travel vlogs. They get sponsors like VPNs and everything else. You see them, they've all got VPNs, and these are the types of sponsors they get. And because it's very general, it's not targeted to their traffic, it means they're not going to get paid very much. They're going to get paid a little bit, and they're not going to get paid very much. And that is where you have to work incredibly hard to not make very much money. So that's something that you really need to think about, is that you're going to be very ad dependent, which means you have to create content all of the time, and you can't actually create a real business around it. So that's one of the reasons I definitely don't want to do it. You really want to be tapping into the big three in some way. So going to get into the different details of what I recommend that you do moving forward. But I just want to get onto my computer for a second and show you a couple of examples of what I mean. And then I'll talk about what you can do in terms of overlap and something that's going to create a real business, generate more income from fewer views and make your life much, much easier. Okay, so I'm back from the beach and I'm going to show you those few examples I was talking about of 3 different travel channels that will explain what I was talking about earlier. Now, these are 3 channels that I absolutely love. And the first one is by a guy called Gary Butler. It's the Roaming Cook. And he basically goes around Southeast Asia and now the surrounding countries like Vietnam and Laos, and I think potentially Cambodia as well. And he goes around with his family, and literally his main focus is street food. So all the sort of backstreet places, the unknown, the places you may not go to, a bit like Anthony Bourdain would. So it's got a real feel of that sort of getting into the skin of things. And he's learning the language. He actually speaks very good Thai now, which means that he gets more of a connection with the people, makes more jokes, and it's just got a really nice vibe to it. And his videos can be very, very long. So the very long vlogging style, chatting, not overly edited. So it is a style that would work very well for many people wanting to create a travel vlog. My issue again with this is you can see that he's probably not making much money. So again, it's coming back to the 2 different points, the main 2 points I was talking about, which was having to travel all of the time and then also making enough money. So if you're traveling with your family, you need to be making a fair amount of money to be able to maintain that lifestyle. And I think from his channel, he's probably not really making much more than, to say, breaking even, which if you're just doing this for the passion is absolutely great. But I think he will make it. So he will grow even faster and become a bigger channel, probably get better sponsorship deals, maybe get some television pushing his way. So I think he'll do okay, but it's going to take him a long time to get there. If we look at the oldest video, he's been going for 7 years. Now, that's not to say that he's been a travel vlogger. He has actually been doing travel vlogging, but I think it's up until recently that he has started to take it more seriously. So let's say he's been doing this for a number of years. So he's really put the work in to getting to that nearly 100,000 mark. So the question is, has he been earning enough from it? And if we look at his latest videos, they're not getting a huge amount of views, as you can see. And he's doing a lot of shorts, so I think a lot of his views and subscribers are coming from that, which won't bring in a lot of money. As we know, long form is the best for vlogging in terms of the format, in terms of showing people what's going on, in terms of the quality of the views, and in terms of making money. Now, based on this, he is getting a lot of views. A lot. He's getting a fair amount, 150,000. So from this, he may be making, maybe say $1,000 a month. So probably about $1,000 a month in ad revenue. That's not a lot. And I can see from his videos, he is starting to get some sponsorship, but they're not huge sponsorship people. Again, it's probably things like VPNs, a few different things about travel apps. And I even see, if I just open them up quickly, we can see that he's promoting his own Bangkok street food map. So he's making money from trying to sell his own product for people that are coming. So people are going to buy that based on them wanting to see what Bangkok's all about and the different types of foods that they're going to find. So he will be probably making as much money from this and the sponsorship. But I don't think this channel, based on the amount of views and the amount of sales of this, because he doesn't really overly push you towards that. And then if we open these up, are there anything else that he's promoting? So it's mainly just his thing. There is potentially an app here for this particular video. So maybe he's starting to get a little bit of sponsorship. But he wasn't going to be making much money. And I would say no more than about $3,000 a month. Maybe that's going to start going up for him. But he's not going to be making a huge amount of money. It's just going to be these little sponsorship deals, which will come to maybe a couple of thousand a month if he's lucky. And then selling his product. And then also his actual thing. So I'm going to say that at this moment in time, based on the size of his channel, it's less than $5,000 a month. That's fine for a family to keep traveling around on the cheap, but you're not making huge money. So they probably will, enough after all of these years, to only be making that much. You start to see where it's really like a challenge. But also, you've got to keep traveling. And with your family and everything, at some point, maybe they want to get more stable with school. Maybe you can't keep traveling around. That means you've got to settle somewhere. That means that the type of content you produce is going to be more location dependent. So maybe he's going to have to spend more time, say, in Bangkok in one location or whatever else. So live takes over. So you start to see there's not huge money in it, and he did actually have to add a product to try and generate that little bit more. The next one is not a food travel channel, but it's one called Kes1. And I really like his types of videos. He's doing great sort of cinematic vlog style videos, very storytelling and everything else. High quality videos. He does really good work. But again, it's not getting huge amounts of views. Okay, they have gotten better since I last checked. They are going up, but still up and down. It's still very video dependent. And if we look at his videos themselves, we go in, we can see that he's still not getting massive amounts of views. It's mainly because of the volume. So the same with Gary on the other one. And here, they're doing a lot of volume. They're doing at least 3 videos per week. And they're having to maintain that. And for the quality of these videos, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work that you've got to put into these videos. So you really would want to get more views than this for the type of cinematic ones he's doing. If I was just recording this on my action camera on my phone and it was taking me 30 minutes, I wouldn't mind. This would be great to get this on every video. So I'd really be very happy with that. And I'm sure he's quite happy now because he is actually doing very well. But again, had to work his way up to nearly 100,000 views. Let's look at the oldest. 6 years he's been doing this. So he's really been honing his skills at editing and everything else. And then we look at the latest. So we can see he's doing well, but nothing is really popping off in any sort of massive way. So you've got to keep creating a lot of content to maintain that figure. And I know from this that he's probably making, I would say, around $1,500 to perhaps a little bit above that. No more than $2,000, I would say, in ad revenue, which is still pretty darn good. But after all of those years, again, getting up to this level of subscribers, it's not huge. You know, it's not massive. He's got a little course, and he's got other things. He's working with sponsors. But again, in most of his videos, so let's have a look. Most of these videos are going on about certain types of sponsors. Now, not all of his videos have sponsors, but I know these are the main ones that he's getting sponsored by. So it's the VPN, the typical VPN that everybody's team seems to do. They've even started approaching me. You got Safety Wings, which is an insurance company, not one I particularly like that much. Haven't had the best experience, but I'm not going to get into that. And then we've got one with these sort of mushroom, different types of therapeutics, I think. And then obviously he's got some music as well. So he's got some affiliate stuff and some long-term sponsors. Now those long-term sponsors, again, maybe giving him a couple of $1,000s a month. But I've also watched one of his videos recently where he's disclosed how much he's been making. And most of the extra money, he is now making about $8,000 to $10,000 a month. But most of that money is now coming from private gigs he's getting for the video production side. So he's making more money from the business of showing his skills, and now he's actually subcontracting. So it's not that he's getting paid so much for his YouTube channel. He's getting paid for the skills that he has within the YouTube channel, which is still great. Maybe that would be your goal. But again, he's not making huge amounts of money from the channel itself. So although his content is amazing and he's putting huge amounts of work into it, not necessarily making huge amounts. The next one is one that I think is massively underrated. And this guy has worked his socks off. Now, he does a huge amount of shorts. He creates huge amounts of videos. Now, he's getting some good views. I don't know how many of these are from shorts. I'm assuming these may be mostly from his long form. But again, his views are very, very up and down. And I think he's massively underrated. But he's published 40 videos this month. That's more than one a day. So his views are coming from him really, really pushing hard. I feel like this guy does not sleep. So if we look at his oldest, 4 years ago he started this. And he's got nearly 70,000 subscribers, most of which has just started to come in over, I would say, the last sort of 6 months. So I think over the last 6 months, he's probably gotten, about half of his subscribers. So that's where things have really started to push off for him. But as we can see, he's not getting massive views again. It's very, very up and down, which is the way it goes with vlogging style videos. But his production, his content is still pretty good. No, it's very good sort of B-roll. It's very good knowledge he's sharing. And I think, as I said, I think he's massively underrated. And it's one that I definitely would keep an eye on. He's putting the work in, but he's having to push really, really hard for this. And I think he's probably making some money now. But again, it's not been a huge amount. He's still having to push for Patreon to ask for money from his members to push for extra content. So I don't have anything against Patreon, but you're never going to make much money from that. And maybe this will be bringing him in a few $100s. But again, I don't think he's going to be making huge amounts of money from this channel. Now, it depends how much of the content is coming from 2 years ago. Yeah, it depends how much of this content is evergreen, if it's still bringing stuff in. Now, if these views are from his long-form content, then he will probably be doing okay. Maybe he's making a few $1,000s in ad revenue, plus sponsors and stuff like that. But again, $5,000 maybe. It's difficult to keep traveling the world. I'm sure he's probably just breaking even. Maybe he's having a good time with it. So you get the point of what I'm trying to say. So what can we do instead? So this is where it comes down to you really thinking about, do you want to be traveling all the time, and how much do you want to earn? So what you should be doing is that if you just want to travel and live in a different country, then maybe you should just be a regular expat and create a regular vlog where traveling is not the main part of it. You could have an educational vlog, you could have any type of vlog or channel, and just create a normal one. And just the fact that you live in a different country is just an extra layer to it. It's an extra interest. Just as if you were walking around the streets in the UK or Europe because you live there, then it's the same thing. You don't have to create a travel vlog just because you live in a different country, but it can add an extra layer of interest, but it doesn't have to be the main thing that you actually do. So that's what I would potentially recommend for the first point. The next one is maybe you could bring in one of the big three. Now, one of the big three is basically health, wealth, and relationships. They're the things that people typically will pay money for. So there's more money in terms of ad revenue. There's more money in terms of affiliate products and sponsorship products, and also creating your own products. So one of the big three, if you can add a second layer of one of the big three, so let's say you're doing obviously travel, you would add an extra layer that maybe it could be relationships. That's why you see many channels out there that get very big, which talk about sort of dating abroad and everything else. Now, that's the reason for it, because there's huge interest around relationships. And that can be on friendship level, but obviously relationships in terms of dating will always be on a higher level. And people, especially men, are always going to spend money in that niche to learn more, because people want to get married, people want to build relationships, people want to understand the pitfalls of, dating abroad, different cultures, everything else. So there's a huge market around that in terms of dating on its own that you could then slide over and overlap with the traveling aspect. But also, people get very lonely when you're traveling. You want to find groups of people. So you want to understand how to network, make friends, find your people, find your circles, do activities. What can you do to meet people? So that's also a big aspect. So relationships are a good overlap for your travel vlog. But also wealth. The biggest questions people get asked in general is, how can you afford to do this? How can I do the same? So if you are working a part-time job, or maybe you are working remotely, you could talk more about the aspects of that. Or maybe you've got a different way that you make money that isn't connected to you uploading to YouTube. So YouTube may be the side project. So you don't necessarily want to teach YouTube like, say, I am, but you actually have other things that you would like to teach. You could teach that aspect. Maybe it's copywriting or something like that. So you could teach how you make money with that, and then make products and sell money, make money off of that. Because people will be like, well, okay, I need to learn a skill to do it online so that I can continue to travel, talk about the travel, and overlap the two together. So that's a good aspect again. But then maybe you could speak more. The main part of the channel could be copywriting. So it's whether or not you want to sell the copywriting part and introduce the secondary part, which is travel, or whether you want to focus on the travel and introduce the how as the lower part, which is then the copywriting. So however you do it doesn't really matter, but then you have more opportunities for either booking private calls, selling coaching, or creating your own products and everything else later on. So you have that overlap, which gives you more opportunity for making money. And there's probably affiliate products and things that are going to be, well, there's huge amounts of affiliate products within the make money space and the wealth building space, because people are willing to invest more if they see a financial return. And then the third and final one is health. Health is a big part of when you're traveling. Trying to remain healthy is probably the least big one out of them all, because often when we're traveling, it's not the first thing that pops into our mind. But as people are starting to travel more, and I've been traveling for a long time now on and off, obviously more expat than traveling, but when you travel anywhere for longer than a month, it's really, you feel unhealthy, you feel bloated because you start exercising less, you break your routines. So you want to know how to remain healthy while you travel. How can you, what gyms, what home workouts, what foods and things can you do so that you can still eat all the nice stuff and do the nice things, but without getting fat and out of shape. So there's an aspect of that where you could overlap the health and fitness in with the travel aspect as well. So there could be an element and a way that you overlap those three. And the third one is that I would link it to a business. So I'm going to be talking more about this probably in the next video, but if you link things to a business, you have an opportunity to sort of document the process of what you are doing. So you're doing something in a different country. Now that could be growing your online business while being in a different country. It could be documenting starting an actual business in that country and the pitfalls and the things to avoid and everything else. So there's many different ways that vlogging can work with documenting the point of view and everything else for an online business. But I'm going to go into more detail about that. But starting a business and doing the point of view and documentation of it can be really beneficial in a variety of different ways. Now, with that said, if you would like more in-depth training on creating your own vlog, then I will link to our community in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next one.